If you were to take a walk through the forests of Southeast Asia during the Ice Age, you would likely encounter many familiar and impressive animals, rhinoceroses, tapirs, and hyenas among them. But roaming those woods was once a creature unlike anything you have ever seen, standing about 3 meters tall and weighing as much as 500 kilograms. This beast was roughly twice the size of a modern gorilla. Scientists call it Gigantopithecus, the greatest ape that ever lived. And for us, its fellow primates, there are valuable lessons in both how it survived and why it ultimately vanished. The story begins in 1935, when paleontologist Ralph von Koenigswald was scouring apothecary shops in Hong Kong. He was searching for so-called dragon teeth, a term in traditional Chinese medicine for fossilized teeth from various animals. On one such trip, von Koenigswald came across a molar unlike any he had ever seen before. The tooth resembled that of an ape, broad and flat, but it was far larger than any species known at the time. Von Koenigswald eventually concluded that it must have belonged to an enormous primate, and he named the new creature Gigantopithecus, meaning giant ape. After this initial find, more teeth surfaced in other apothecary shops, and later a few jawbones were uncovered in caves in China. And that was it. To this day, scientists have recovered additional jaws and thousands of teeth, but never any other part of this giant ape skeleton. Yet, even with so little material, researchers have been able to piece together a surprising amount about Gigantopithecus. To start with, it is now known that there were 3 species of this ape, the earliest appearing around 9 million years ago during the Miocene epoch. The most recent, and by far the largest, was Gigantopithecus blacki. It lived from roughly 2 million to 100,000 years ago, during the Pleistocene epoch, in what is now southern China and Vietnam. The most striking feature of Gigantopithecus blacki's teeth was their sheer size. Its molars measured 2.5 centimeters across, more than twice the width of a human tooth. But a closer look revealed much more than size alone. Scientists have also used these teeth to determine its closest living relatives. In 2008, a team of anthropologists studied the enamel thickness of 10 Gigantopithecus teeth, along with the shape of the dentin beneath. They found that the structure and composition of these fossil teeth most closely resembled those of the only great ape still found in Asia, the orangutan. This was unexpected, because orangutans are arboreal, spending most of their lives high in the trees, whereas Gigantopithecus was far too massive to climb. As a result, scientists believe it must have been a ground dweller. This opens up a new question. What does a half-ton primate eat in order to survive? Its wide, flat teeth, combined with deep, powerful jaws, point to a diet of tough, fibrous plants. Microscopic plant fossils, known as phytoliths, have also been found on its teeth, showing that it fed on grasses, as well as seeds and fruit. Beyond that, the chemical composition of its teeth has allowed scientists to reconstruct the habitat it relied on, and perhaps even the reason it disappeared. The trail of evidence begins with carbon isotopes. Depending on their environment, different plants absorb and store carbon isotopes in distinct ways during photosynthesis. For example, plants in cool, humid climates are typically C3 plants because their photosynthesis produces a 3-carbon compound with its own unique isotopic signature. In contrast, plants in hot, dry climates are usually C4, using a slightly different pathway that leaves behind its own distinctive chemical traces. This has proven extremely useful, because when animals eat those plants, the chemical signatures are carried into their teeth. By analyzing Gigantopithecus teeth, researchers can determine not only what it ate, but also what its Ice Age habitat looked like. In 2011, paleontologists in China studied the enamel of Gigantopithecus and found that it fed exclusively on C3 plants, those that thrive in humid forests, rather than on C4 plants from hot, grassy plains. Meanwhile, fossils of other mammals living alongside it, such as rhinos, tapirs, and hyenas, show that they ate both C3 and C4 plants. This suggests that Gigantopithecus inhabited a mosaic environment of forests and grasslands, but it was adapted only to the forests and never ventured into the open, much like modern orangutans or mountain gorillas, which are also specialists of dense forests. This specialist lifestyle allowed the giant ape to persist for nearly 2 million years in the forests of Southeast Asia. but it lived during a time of constant upheaval. The Pleistocene, often called the Ice Age, was marked by glaciers that repeatedly advanced and retreated. When frozen, they trapped moisture. When they melted, they released it, driving cycles of dramatic climate change. At times, warm and humid conditions lasted for tens of thousands of years, allowing forests to expand. But then the ice would return, pulling moisture back to higher latitudes, shrinking forests, and spreading grasslands. Gigantopithecus managed to survive the first few of these glacial cycles, but around 100,000 years ago, a cold period arrived that proved too severe. As ice sheets expanded and grasslands spread, the forests of Southeast Asia shrank, stripping Gigantopithecus of the habitat it needed. Its populations plummeted, and by about 100,000 years ago, the giant ape had vanished altogether. Its longevity was owed to its specialist lifestyle, finding exactly the food and habitat it needed. But that same dependence left it vulnerable in an ever-changing world. In that sense, the fate of Gigantopithecus closely mirrors that of many modern animals, including its closest living relatives, the orangutans. Orangutans, too, are forest specialists, today confined to the islands of Borneo and Sumatra. Yet over the past several decades, their forests have been steadily diminished by logging and wildfires. With much of their habitat gone, all three species of orangutan are now listed as critically endangered. Still, many researchers hold out hope that we can help these distant cousins of Gigantopithecus and of ourselves by continuing to study and learn from the story of the greatest ape that ever lived. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel.